Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm KROOF, and today we're going to be talking about a larger topic and a more general topic for the gameplay of Guild Wars 2. This specifically being about healing and support, which might dovetail to a discussion about tanking and aggro management in Guild Wars 2. But first and foremost, let's talk about everything that we learned yesterday from the new support specialization, the Spectre, which is the Thief Elite Spec. Now, this got me so excited. With Elite Specs, now, once again, they don't have to do this with every expansion. However, it's lovely when they implement new systems and new methods of doing gameplay. With Heart of Thorns, they introduced new boons and conditions. With Path of Fire, they introduced barrier application, which is like an overshielding mechanic. And now, in End of Dragons, we finally get single target support and healing abilities. This is super exciting because Guild Wars 2 has never allowed you to have the option. They've never designed it in a way to allow or think about single target abilities for allies. There are many single target abilities on enemies, but you've never been able to click on an ally and do an effect on them, be it healing them, giving them barrier, removing conditions, giving them extensions on their boons. So many different aspects of support can now be flourishing. So with Spectre, we'll kind of go through it. I have a little rough outline. I don't have a full script. It's going to be very off-the-cuff type of video. But with the Spectre, it's hyper-focused on one target, applying a lot of barrier and extra support applications, some slight healing, some slight boon uptime on one specific target. So this is actually even better because of the Spectre's Scepter. It really is a tongue twister. Its auto attack can also be focused on an ally, and it's quite a decent amount of barrier that we saw in a PvE environment. It's 500 barrier or more on a single target every auto attack. Auto attacks don't cost initiative. You keep building that barrier up. So you can get a very low health or, high value ally to be more defensive in these situations if you can get those projectiles landing on them. And I think that's really, really exciting. You also have to think about like projectile block, projectile reflect. Certain things might happen with that as well. But we've never seen this before, and once I saw that, I was super, super excited. I had coincidentally just been talking about it on my live streams over at Twitch. Go check that out, twitch.tv/KROOF_. And I was saying that perhaps in the next expansion after End of Dragons, we could maybe see some more single target healing go into an area that they've never done before. Lo and behold, I found out I'm a psychic, and also wrong in the manner that they're doing it with this expansion, and that is super, super cool. Now, this isn't going to be a video specifically talking about Spectre. That will come down the line, but I want to use Spectre, and now that we have gotten confirmation that they are designing and allowing themselves to design such support moves and applications, I want to use Spectre as a launching board into a larger discussion on what it means to support and heal in Guild Wars 2. Now, with this single target aspect, what does this mean for other classes? Will we see retroactive adjustments to other support elite specializations? I'm looking at you, Druid. Core profession skills to allow for single target abilities, such as the Guardian Staff auto attack, or, some other abilities that don't have a classification, like maybe Consecration Shelter. The Shelter skill that doesn't have a classification might have a consecration that you use on an ally, or Ether Feast, where you summon an illusion to either heal yourself, and if you have a target ally selected, it will then target on that ally to go heal them. Something along those lines. I really wish and hope that as most new features with an expansion, we see single target healing and ally targeting abilities start to trickle down into other skills. It doesn't have to be a lot of them, but I would love to see them go back and adjust certain skills. We saw it with Barrier. Initially, Barrier was only really on Scourge with slight application on Weaver, and then over time, they put Barrier onto Core Elementalist, onto Scrapper, onto Ranger, onto Revenant. It just happened. Same thing with Alacrity and Quickness. It used to really just be on Chronomancer, and then they have started to trickle it down into other professions. And so with this being not necessarily a unique effect, it's mostly just a unique, what is currently unique application of support. In the same vein, even future elite specs might now focus in supporting allies in a very similar way, where we can now down the line actually get a pure like priest or monk guardian elite spec, where we can play that Guild Wars 1 fantasy of having really strong protective prayers on a single target, or really strong healing or cleansing on a single target. So in terms of what we already have, we could see more improvements. And in terms of the future is looking very bright for support and healing. Now, I want to say this also connects to a topic about balance. I think currently the one reason why support is somewhat really difficult to balance is because a lot of the healing, almost, I would say 99% of the healing, is area of effect group healing. And in that regard, it's extremely powerful. So what I wouldn't mind seeing is some more nerfs to area of effect healing, while in turn allowing a couple more skills to single target heal, while because it's only a single target and you have to play a little bit more strategically, we can now see some stronger healing on certain abilities. I'm looking at you specifically, Druid. I'm thinking like, what if you go into Celestial Avatar form, and if you have an ally targeted, your auto attack no longer heals everyone in the area, but will focus down on one target, granting them stronger heals, and maybe even like 1 stack of might baseline to then play into Grace of the Land, giving 3 on the auto attack for one specific target. We can start to see single target abilities, support abilities, be much more interesting and strong and high value. You're like, oh, I have an AoE application of this, but do I want to use a single target heal, which might increase the cooldown by 5 seconds, but I get like 20% more healing and it now extends a boon, or now it grants alacrity. We can get into this really interesting thought process with support, where it's no longer this easy, very almost simple mindset. I'm looking at you, Guardian, where it's like, I stand in an area and I literally have the strongest heals in the game that are super on demand. So now we can have these certain trade-offs, which I'd be really interested to see. I think the idea of single target healing works in a PvP and world versus world aspect currently. And this is going into another topic. Why is this needed? And how does this compete with area of effect healing in a PvE environment, specifically a PvE environment, both in open world, in strike missions, in fractals, in dungeons, and in raids? So this is where it starts, the discussion starts to shift from a really cool aspect of single target into how is this already cool, and how can this even be better and facilitate another area of play style that Guild Wars 2 doesn't really have in endgame PvE. This being tanking and aggro management. Back in the day, Guild Wars 2 said that they didn't want to really have a hard Trinity system. That was like said back in 2010. It's 2021. It's been about a decade, a little over a decade. So long that a lot of things that were kind of core philosophies in terms of no expansions, no mounts, no gliding, none of these extra factors, we never even thought of barrier back then. Those ideas completely crumbled. And we see as games develop and go on, sometimes you have to go back on certain things that were said years ago, ages ago. And then I don't think that implementing certain tanking aspects in open world and in endgame content would fit Guild Wars 2 in a needed, structured, hard Trinity system, because I think the customization of characters already breaks that inherently. But I think when you start saying that you can play whatever way you want, as they did years back, the one area that never really received that love was tanking. You could always deal damage. You can always deal flat damage from core. Support became more of a thing in Heart of Thorns. Conditioned damage over time playstyles became more of a thing in Heart of Thorns. They expanded on support with barrier playstyle in Path of Fire, and they're even doing so now in End of Dragons. What is the one playstyle that really has not seen a lot of love in endgame PvE. Tanking. Because there are people in MMOs that love to control a fight and to tank and to have defensive maneuvers and be able to focus on that break bar. I think this would allow a lot of creativity and excitement within raiding systems, and also maybe even catch the attention of people who don't play Guild Wars 2 who are tank mains, and they're like, oh, you can really tank in this game now? Has awesome combat, PvE, endgame strike missions, dungeons, fractals, raids? Sure, I'll try it out. Having single target healing could facilitate the developers to maybe go back and implement actual tanking mechanics in professions. And I have a completely other video that I want to do that will be kind of the sibling video to this, so be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to kind of leave that topic there because I have a couple answers to how they can actually implement tanking. Specifically, 2 factors, toughness and taunt. Keep that in mind, toughness and taunt, but I'll leave that there for next video. This could facilitate single target healing and support maneuvers, could facilitate increased tanking capabilities in endgame PvE. However, I want to talk about the now, because we haven't had any confirmation or information about, tanking improvements. I'm really scared that while Spectre looks really interesting, I cannot see anybody taking Spectre over, say, a Scourge or a Firebrand or a Chrono support, because they have immense area of effect healing, and so many of the encounters have their damage works in a way where there's not really a consistent tank, and the damage is extremely area of effect focused. So when you have this perfect storm of mechanics where there isn't a consistent tank all the time, a lot of AoE damage, and when there is damage, it's very bursty. You need the AoE healing potential. I cannot see that really cool idea from Spectre being taken over any other support class. So I fear that while it's really cool, they have to put other implementations of playstyles such as tanking to really pair well with that and to really see that flourish in this new support playstyle. In addition to this, I think that the UI, if they are going to, and I really hope they do, I think this is honestly the best change. So I'm going to be talking in terms of they need to. I would love if they allowed more UI customization and flexibility. I'm not necessarily talking about add-ons. We can talk about add-ons on another day, but I genuinely mean unlocking almost every UI feature similar to Guild Wars 1 and allowing your squad UI, your party UI, to be movable and lockable wherever you want it on the screen, to then have customization where you can maneuver and change your target enemy or ally UI and position that wherever you want, to even take aspects of your hotbar and to move them around, resize it, shift over the entire health pool and hotbar over to the left or the right. And then beyond that, we have boons and conditions. Maybe players don't want to have their boons and conditions positioned to the bottom right of their utility skills. Maybe they want them up top or more centralized or above the health pool to have it in a straight line. Also, this would allow for more consistency in terms of where the boons and conditions pop up and certain, unique effects. More organization options with buffs, boons, and conditions. The UI aspect heavily connects to single target healing. Not only single target healing, but also just if you're a support, you can change your squad menu and your party window to a different location to better understand the damage of the group. I think this is just a quality of life feature that should have been implemented probably back in Heart of Thorns. So I really am a big supporter of unlocking almost every aspect of the UI. From your chat window to your minimap to your hotbar, your health pool, or your party, your objectives, the target that you have selected. Having options like in Final Fantasy XIV, where you can actually have a selected ally always present, especially if they do end up developing tanking, where you need a single target and you have to have a specialization or a build that focuses on one high value target. I guess wrapping up, really love Spectre. Really love single target healing. I think this is really a great future for Guild Wars 2's combat and endgame PvE in particular. Additionally, I really hope they look at tanking capabilities and the customization in raiding and strike environments to allow players to play a tank playstyle. And I have a specific video that I will do immediately after this talking about such ideas. In addition to that, I want UI to really be flexible and to be unlocked for this, to have better time like targeting certain allies. And yeah, that's kind of the entire video that I want to talk about. Just an overall philosophical idea video about the potential of support and single target healing. So I would love to hear what you all have to say about the new single target ally targeting function with certain skills, certain support skills. Do you enjoy them? Are you excited? Are you as excited as I am? Do you see certain problems as we might have talked about here with, you know, the UI issues? How valuable is this really going to be? Everything is so AoE pressure. Maybe we could see more encounters that focus on just single target consistent damage over time, etc, etc. Subscribe, like the video, like it, comment down below your thoughts. If you'd like to pre-order End of Dragons, I have links down below. And if you'd like to help support the Patreon where you get videos early, hit me up on the Patreon. And I will see you all in the next video. Cannot wait for these beta testing. So see you all then. Bye. Mwah.